So welcome to The Real Build. I'm your host, Bill Ryman, your broker builder. And today I got a special guest coming from nearby Miami, Florida, not too far away from me. On her first full year in real estate, she was fortunate to close one of her first $1 million deals where she represented the buyer. That was amongst her 30 plus transactions that same year, which is very impressive, giving her plenty of exposure to quickly become very knowledgeable in the field known and in the luxury market. Her motto is make a customer, not a sale. She believes in treating and advising all her clients as she would with family. She's well known within Miami market for her innovative methods, leading to long-lasting and genuine connections with her clientele. She has a bachelor's in criminal justice and a minor in business, which allows her to apply many skills from research, law, rules, and regulations, as well as her strong determination and impeccable work ethic. She is a natural-born leader. She's an advocate for women empowerment and personal growth. Through her coaching program, she seeks to inspire and motivate the young generation to reach their full potential. She spends her rare free time doing water activities, mindful practices such as meditation and yoga, traveling, reading books, enjoying the company of her friends and family. She is an avid philanthropist. She supports various charities and include local organizations such as Miami Model Citizens, which she is an active ambassador. Maria Camila Betancur, welcome to The Real Build. I still butchered that last name. That's a hell of an intro. Thank you for being on.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, you're not the first or only one that butchered my last name. It's totally okay. I'm used to it. I think you did an actual pretty good job considering,
Yeah.
how long did you have to practice this?
Yeah, exactly. I get it all the time with my last name, so I'm used to it as well. But no, I really do appreciate it. I'm excited to have you on because one of the main reasons too, and me and you kind of discussed this briefly, but you have an interior design background as well that you're kind of implying to the real estate industry, which I have that building background that I'm doing the same thing as your broker builder. So I'm excited to kind of talk to you about that angle that you're going with too. So thank you again, and let's get into this. So I like to, get started with every guest on my show with asking about your background. I've read your story online. It's an amazing story. So let's talk about who is Maria.
Thank you. Maria is 23 years old. I think you pretty much summed it up in your beautiful introduction. But Maria is currently 23 years old, which, the minute that I say I'm 23, people, they're like, wow, I would, not because I look older, because I do still have the baby face, but it's the accomplishments, right? But I came here about 13 years ago with my mother. Like you said, I went to school, high school, then in college, I went to Florida International University, where I graduated with my bachelor's in criminal justice. During my bachelor's, I decided to pursue the real estate career. And, but I said I needed to finish my bachelor's because, having that certificate of graduation on the wall shows commitment, and it shows that I can, do something from start to finish. So that was very important for me, and that's why I decided to finish it, and God forbid, tomorrow I decide I want to go back to it, I can pursue it because I have the bachelor's there. So like I said, I was finishing my college, but I was already starting to get into the real estate. I went to Gold Coast for my schooling. It was a week course. And at the time, my ex-husband was an investor. So because of him is why I, decided to get into real estate and give it a try. So he wanted to invest right away. So I was actively looking for him as I was getting my license. That's why I had to take the week course. And it was like, the minute that I graduated, we were already placing offers. It was very like very hands-on. So I loved it. I was able to learn a lot because of that. 2 years later, I got my own team within our brokerage. My business partner and I, she had the 10 years of experience, and I had, she had the years, and I had the knowledge as far as, young, energetic. I want to, take real estate to the next level, take it onto social media, to the internet, do all these different innovative things that, you know, realtors that are the older generation don't apply or don't know about. So ever since, I've been doing that. I built my own team. Right now I have 5 agents under my team, and that's about it. That's a little nutshell of what Maria is, who Maria is. That's such a weird question. Like, who is Maria? I was reading this audiobook. It's called Becoming Nobody by Ram Dass. And he talks exactly about it. It's about being nobody, and how great it is to be nobody. And when you're nobody, you're egoless. And then you get to enjoy the true beauty of life and the true meaning of it. And so I was, when people ask me, who is Maria Camila? I almost want to say I'm nobody. But yeah.
No, I mean, your story, and like I said, I read on your background and everything. Since you were younger and you moved here, you've always had to work, and you've always had to work hard. And it's impressive too, because you've almost fast tracked everything, real estate wise too. Because most people that get into real estate, they're not going to go into selling stuff as fast as you did. So that almost expedited your experience too, on top of the experiences that you had prior to real estate of always having to work, always having to figure out how to make a living. I think you were probably out on your own at an early age too. And I mean, it was just, there were so many factors that have kind of fast tracked you to grow up, too, and learn how to provide for yourself and for your family as well. So it was very impressive. But then things along your story, like I read too, like you getting divorced at an early age, like that probably made, that helped you kind of figure out different directions and avenues that you had to go to. I'm similar. I actually got a divorce too. And it was something that kind of ignited things for me too. And you probably know what I'm talking about, unless you were in a similar situation. You probably don't if you're listening, but it really ignited my real estate career and my business to where I was like, all right, it's time to go all in. I don't care what I got to do. I'm going to 10X what I'm doing. It motivated you even more, I'm sure too. But what's very impressive to me as well with you is that you're 23 years old and you already have a team of 5 agents that are working under you, that there's agents that are 55 that don't even know, they can't even make one sale within a year. I mean, it's just, you've already fast tracked the real estate process by learning and doing and pushing yourself too.
So for me, because real estate is something that I love, but it's also the vehicle to get me where I eventually want to be, which is actually coaching for real estate and the public speaking, which I've started doing a lot of, and I'm sort of going there. So my goal is to be able to, and I always had the same vision of being able to build my team and being completely hands-on with them. And I think that is the best definition of a leader, because if you're a leader, you're building people next to you to learn and do the same things that you do, versus, when you're just the boss or whatever the case, if you take yourself away from the equation, the business is not going to be successful unless you teach others to be the same, do the same things that you did. So that's, my goal, being able to have my agents replicate what I've done, so that if I take myself away from the equation, everything will run smoothly, and everything, we will continue to make the same amount of money, and, the same sales and volume and all of that good stuff. And not everybody has that vision. Some just want to be a real estate agent for the rest of their lives. Like I said, my goal and what I love to do is, I'm a natural born leader. I like to lead, and I like to learn and teach. What people don't understand that it's in order to teach, you first have to be a student. So I'm a student of life, and I like to learn and apply that and share that knowledge with other people, so they can follow the footsteps.
Yeah, which is awesome about you too. Because I mean, people, you've already because you fast tracked the real estate process, you've had some success in it too. Your team's going to trust you as well, even being as young as you are. They've seen what you've done. They're seeing what you're doing, and I'm the same way. I mean, I have a guy that works under me. You know, I have a building end of things, so I'm more towards the building and finding lots and so on. But I still do real estate. I still do luxury real estate like yourself, but eventually I want to have, like you, I want to have people doing it for me or with me, and then I can manage properties or do just I want to actually own the properties as well too, you know. So I'm actually buying and selling properties, rentals, stuff like that, so I'm not so much hands on with the buyers and the sellers and so on. I have other people doing that too. So it's was very interesting reading your story, and on top of, we haven't even gotten into it yet, the interior design aspect of it, which I think is so smart, you know, because I did something similar with the building, which we'll get into as well. So good for you, you know, as far as what you've done. What year? So you might have said this, just to refresh it. What year did you start working in real estate, and what was your reason, your real reason of getting into it too? Let's go deeper into that rather than another sales industry.
So it was 2016. Like I said, I was with my ex-husband at the time, and his mother was the one that did all his real estate transactions. And funny, my current business partner was his realtor as well, for the luxury side. But for the investment side, he had his mother who had her license. But she was older already, and he wanted to have somebody that he could trust in the inside. So he mentioned it to me, would you like to get your real estate license? Also, we love to travel. And so being a realtor, although it is a lot of hands-on, I was able to, the job was flexible, right? And so I said, okay, well, I'll give it a try. I always had an interest on that business side, and the selling. And I gave it a try. And when I did, I found my calling. I loved it, every single aspect of it, from the negotiation to the building the relationship with your clients, to closing the deal, to finding the house. Every single step of the way, I just enjoyed it so much. And I identify myself with it, and that's why I build my team as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm similar too as far as that, and just every, like, I never thought I'd be in real estate. I never thought I'd be in construction, to be honest. And I've told this story in the past. I hated construction growing up because I was always my dad's grunt, working, digging ditches, sweeping job sites, doing all the stuff nobody wants to do. But that transitioned me into the business and helped me learn more about it, but also, gave me a better appreciation for it than obviously what stems off construction, real estate, when you're dealing with houses. So I got better at that because I knew houses, how they're built from the ground up, unlike a lot of other agents. I know what pilings are and how the slab and how that's all poured and so on, which has helped me with my career in real estate too. So you said that success is a product of what you put out. So, and real estate has allowed you to flourish and become the best version of yourself. What are you doing differently, let's say, to stand out from the many thousands of agents in your area? Because obviously, as we know, Miami's a big area. There's a lot of competition in the real estate market there. I mean, there's a lot over here, but not nearly as much as you. So what are you doing to stand out?
That's funny. I always say everybody and their mother is a real estate agent here in
Yeah,
Miami.
I think that's
Um,
state. I think it's a
but
state of Florida in general, actually.
yeah, but there's, I think that there's a difference between a producing agent, a top agent, and just an agent. And I think that's where I'm defined, because I always say that, like you said, it's how much what you put into it is what you get out. And so if you're a full-time real estate agent or a half-time real estate agent, that is what you're going to receive, as far as, you know, your commission, your earnings, whatever the case. And I realized that a lot of realtors are just so focused on that commission and collecting that paycheck, that they sort of become, you know, they're on autopilot and they just want to close and move on to the next one. And and I take that back, not we, because I don't do that, but they forget that you're still dealing with people, you're still dealing with humans, and that rather than selling a product, you're selling a service, that you're the product. And you know, real estate is a very touchy subject. You know, for a lot of people, you're representing them on their first time home, so you are making their dreams a reality. And so if you have that mentality where you just want to collect the paycheck, or that commission check, you're forgetting about them and their feelings. And I think that's what the difference is between me and other realtors. I care about my clients and I make sure that they get well taken care of from the beginning to the end, and that their best interest is at the forefront for me. And that means, you know, I don't just say that lightly. That means extra work for me, yes, but it also means that I'm going to keep that relationship for a long time, and they're going to be return customers, and they're going to be referring me people. So again, like, I'm talking about keeping that relationship at the forefront, as far as like, you may have shown them 10 houses and none of them work, and they seem to like one and you don't think it's the right one. I get to be honest and say, you know, so and so, I don't think this is the right one for you. It's going to cost me to show them 10 more, right? But the reward of, at the end, at the closing table, saying thank you, Maria, because I know this was the one meant to be and not the first one, is priceless. And you build right there the relationship, and then it doesn't just stop there. So you know, you mentioned you wanted to go into the interior design talk as well, but we can sort of build up on that later. But because I like to keep the relationship with my clients, after I close them, I don't disappear. You know, I'm there. Hey, do you need help? Do you need a handyman? I can recommend you some people. I send them a closing gift. And then now that I'm an interior designer, I can also offer that service. And people like to just continue to keep that relationship because, you know, you're taking care of them from start to finish. And I think that's what makes the difference between a regular agent and the top producing.
Yeah, and everything you just said is 100% I agree with too, because I mean, with a lot of people too, it is just about the paycheck, getting the commission, and then walking away. And I've had a ton of other agents on the show, and we've discussed the same topic. But you know, with you have a similar thing with me, is that you're making the connections, not only with those people, but you have the contractors on the outside in case those people need help with something. You're saying I'm your go-to person. Call me. I'll be your resource. I'll be the middleman. You know, I have the connections to get things done fast. That's the way I deal with my customers too. I just did the other day where a lady, I sold her a house, and it wasn't a house we built. It was just a resale house, and she had a pool drainage issue. Well, who's she going to call? Me. She calls me. I go there, look at the drainage issue. I know exactly what's going on, and I say, okay, let me get a hold of somebody, and maybe I can drill this gap bigger for you so the drainage goes into it's called a pool deco drain. It drains a lot better and more efficient. So I called my paver guy. He sent over a guy, sawed the line thicker, made the drain bigger, and boom, problem solved. She paid him directly. It's just that little thing, though, of being able to help them, you know, and be there for them. Like I do home watch too. I offer a home watch service. So once a week I'll check out all these houses for people that, you know, and I'm doing it for probably 10 homes right now. And I'll go by once a week, look at everything, make sure it's okay, check in here and there. And that's another service to keep, you know, in front of them and keep top of mind with these people too, and just serve them and better serve them as a client, not just a check. So, you know, there's certain things, and you hit it spot on too with your design and everything. And like I said, we're going to get into that you can continue the relationship. And that's what it's truly all about. And that's not what a lot of realtors unfortunately think about. but the top producers are the people that are going to come out ahead in the real estate game in the future is going to be people like yourself. So, real estate, you also said on to the next thing, you also said real estate has opened up so many doors for you financially, spiritually, and in your personal life that have had a monumental impact on your mental health. So let's talk about that. How? Explain this a little bit.
So it all goes back to what I said earlier about we as real estate agents, we don't offer a product, we offer a service, and we are the service. And the better you are as an individual personally, the better you will be in business. And so I believe in, there are stages of self-development and emotional intelligence, and you have 1 to 10. Obviously, if you're a 4, that is who you are, that's what you're going to receive, and that's what you can put out. So if you're putting out a 4 to your clients, that's what they're receiving, versus if you are a 10, you're being able to put a 10 and they're receiving a 10. And then by that same mentality, you're also targeting, your subconscious, you'll attract a 10. So if you're a 10, you'll attract level 10 customers. If you're a 4, you'll attract level 4 customers. And I'm not talking about money wise. A lot of the times I get asked, because I do coach realtors, and I get asked all the time on social media, how do I tap into the luxury market? How do I reach those higher end properties? And I tell them, I think that your mindset is just completely wrong. If you read my bio, I say that although, the luxury market is my backbone of my clientele, I do accept and I do treat everybody the same, because we're all equal, and even a renter, because a renter turns into a buyer and a buyer turns into a seller and then a buyer again. So I say that to all of my agents to keep in mind. So I treat everybody the same, whether it's a $600,000 transaction, a $200,000 transaction, or $1 million transaction. They're humans. But I'm talking more about, who they are as a person. So I'm sure you can relate. I've had transactions where it's a $200,000 transaction or a $1 million transaction, and they are a pain in the butt. And that used to be back then. I realized that the better I become as a person, the more developed I am, the less I have to deal with that. And not necessarily because they're no longer there or they're no longer doing the same thing, because you're always going to encounter problems, problematic people, problematic clients, closers, lenders, title company, everything. But it's about how you respond to it. And I've realized that ever since I've done that enrichment work, that self-development work, that I'm able to respond better to these situations. Also real estate, you work for yourself, you're an independent contractor, and so you could either lose yourself in time and not optimizing it correctly. You could either be doing too much of too many things you don't need to do, or too little. I used to catch myself not eating a lot of the times because I was out on the job, all day or whatever the case. So implementing these practices such as meditating and yoga, time blocking, just caring for myself allowed me to, I need to eat, I need to eliminate this stuff that I don't need to do and focus on this that I do need to do, hence being able to become a better realtor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure your stress levels, everything have gone way down too with dealing. Because I mean, as you know, this business too, we are so all over the place unless we're, time actually adjusting our time according to. But I mean, you could have something on your schedule, then somebody calls you that's urgent, and then you got to handle this, and then also being in 2 businesses like yourself too. You got an interior design customer, and then you got a real estate customer. They're calling you about a closing, and then you got to you're in the middle of an interior design meeting, and theirs is urgent. It's just, you can easily, quickly go all over the place too. And that's where, like you're saying, the self-development, the meditation and so on helps you and kind of keeps you tamed here and there, or because I mean, you brush on this too. You being in this business and having the experience in it, you start to learn. Obviously, over time, when you first get in it, you want every single customer that comes your way. You want to deal with every single person that comes your way. But you realize that you're not meant. And I've said this multiple times because I've learned it since I really started working on my self development that we're not meant to work with everybody. That's one thing that I've kind of started taking, especially in the building world, because with building, I'm with these clients for a year, 2 years at a time. So if you're not meshing off the bat towards the beginning of something, and this should go for any business, how do you think that relationship's going to go throughout the process? You know what I mean? And if you guys are rocky at the beginning, you don't mesh well, you don't have that good bond. And showing houses is the same exact thing. If you're going to show somebody 5 houses, you want to have a good relationship with them and hit it off, because we're not meant to work with everybody. Our personalities don't mesh with everybody. You find that out real fast, especially in this business, and I'm sure you've learned that too. So the people that you mesh with are the people that are going to work out good for you. You're going to have strong relationships, and they're going to give you good referrals. So
Part of the self-development work also is and that emotional intelligence is learning that, and my philosophy in life is always asking myself, am I operating with from a place of love, and is this bringing me peace? Those are the 2 questions that I always ask myself when I have a big decision to make, or just with everything, and part of that allows me to, because although I'm doing the tough work, that tough inner work, not everybody else does it. But because I'm doing it, I know that I'm operating with love, and I see everybody with love. And even a person that we may not be matching correctly, I can just understand that that's just who they are, and still be able to operate with love and not allow that, say, ugly or bad part of them get to me. Right? So I do agree on what you're saying as far as, we can't work with everybody. And at that point, that's why I also have a team where I can delegate some work. But I also believe that, if somebody's coming to me to begin with, and that was one thing that when I first started real estate, I noticed about this big time brokers or real estate agents, that when they get so huge, they start to like give away everything and not be there. All they would do is just say the name, hey, I'm so and so, and I'm not gonna name drop, but they'll say I'm so and so and I'm representing the transaction, and then that's it. They'll completely disconnect from it, and then everything will be what I call the little minions. So like the agents are just learning, they'll take over everything. And I agreed with that so much, because you lose your essence, and that's one thing that I don't want to lose. So although I do give to my client, certain clients, my realtors, I make sure that I'm there every step of the way, and I ask that I'm CC'd on every email, that I'm on the same group chat, to make sure they're getting well taken care of, and that they don't feel that I sort of just gave them away, regardless whether they're troublesome people, if they're not an easy client. Again, as long as you're looking at everybody from a place of love, they'll become easy clients, because you'll understand everything from a different perspective.
No, and I love that. I love that right there too. And I mean, and I'm the same exact way as that. And that might be a problem too in some aspects, because I like to deal with everybody throughout the whole entire transaction too. I don't like to divvy it up, because I feel like sometimes I wish there was multiple. I can clone myself, because I do things a certain way. And that's the thing too. And when I say, you were not meant to work with everybody, I'm more towards the aspect of, like with the building industry too. If somebody comes to me, they say, hey, I want it this way, it's got to be this way, or that's it, blah blah blah, and we do it a certain way. Well, I'm not going to work with you, because we're just going to butt heads the whole entire way throughout the building process. So it's just, I'll work with everybody to an extent that I possibly can. If I feel, and over the years, I've really learned this more and more too. If I feel that we're going to connect, we're going to do, both are going to hit it off. We're going to do a good job. I'm going to try and make it work the best that I possibly can to my best ability and deliver a superior product or deliver, a superior experience. Then let's go. Let's have at it. You know what I mean? So that's what I meant by that. And no, I love that what you just said as far as looking at it with a sense of love. I mean, because you're not going to be the same as everybody. I mean, we're not, it's just you have to learn to shift towards people's ideals and everything and how they are to try and help better them too. And that's what we're in this business to do. So I completely understand where you're coming from on that one.
I mean, and two, I'm not this perfect human being that I'm always going to operate with love. I try, but people can get under your skin, and at that point, it's what you're saying. You got to choose your peace and tranquility over, the commission. You're just not connecting. You are, and you're doing your best. And as long as you're trying and it's still not going, then like you said, you can't work with everybody.
Exactly. So you started a team, and we kind of obviously brushed on this. Your team's grown and so on. So you said that you have mastered the field of investment properties, diligently researching hundreds of properties for sale and only selecting ones with high return on investments. How are you doing this? Just so the people listening know, and what should clients pay attention to when going through this process?
I think the most important thing is to have a realtor that you can fully trust. Again, it goes back to relationships. If you have a realtor you can fully trust, you can ask them about the market and they will genuinely tell you, well, right now it's time to invest in condos or houses, or right now it's time to keep your money. I think that is the hardest thing that realtors can't seem to do. And it's the part about saying, right now is not the time to buy. Because that puts a dent in your pocket, right? But again, if you operate your real estate the right way and you save, you don't overspend, I mean, in real estate, we work for ourselves. So one year you make, I don't know, 6 figures. The next year you make not even close. So you do always have to save. And because you're operating that way, you can comfortably say to your client, I think you should wait. It's not the time right now. Let's wait 6 months and see how the market looks, especially with investors. When you're working with investors, they've been doing this for a while, so they know, but they run to you, one, because it's easier than having to just stay on top of the market, to have somebody they trust and just say, hey, Maria, just tell me how the market is. And two is because you're the realtor, so this is your job. With investors, everybody wants to work with investors, particularly because they tend to be cash. And if they're not cash, they have the funds to, put down a large down payment. So it's great working with investors, but because of that, they know that there's tons of realtors out there that want to work with them. So what makes you different? So being completely honest, I think, is the most important thing. Here in South Florida, investing in real estate, as long as you're getting 6% and higher, you are good. Anything below 6%, I don't recommend getting in. And so, there's a lot of condominiums and houses in here where families that just immigrated from elsewhere come and the areas of Kendall and, I won't say names because you may not be familiar, but certain areas that, those are a good investment because there's always going to be renters needing to stay in that area and rent within that price range. So that's sort of what my team and I have focused on. Again, it all came from my ex-husband who used to invest with me in that area. So I would look for the houses, the condominiums, I would buy them for him, and then I would rent them out. And then I would also manage them as far as collecting the rent, making sure that, the walkthroughs are done, the exit walkthroughs, the entry walkthroughs, any repairs that they get dealt with, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and what you just said too right there is being honest. I mean, that's the main thing because so many agents with especially with clients, they want to push them to now, do it now. You got to buy now. Now's the time to buy. When if you're saying, maybe now, maybe we should wait 6 months because this is what's happening because you have market knowledge and so on, that is why they're hiring you. And there's a distrust with a lot of real estate agents because a lot of people we're salespeople, and a lot of people don't trust salespeople, hands down. They think you're just out for the check. But if you actually do what you're saying and tell people, listen, we're going to hold off because of this. I think something with the market's going to happen here. I think you should wait because if you can get it for less, you're going to make a better return on your investment. That right there is going to make you stand out. Yeah, you're sacrificing losing your commission right then and there, but later on it's only going to benefit you down the line because they're going to trust you more. So that's what's so huge about what you just said too. But this was the main thing too. I wanted to get into this because I mean, me and you are similar. We kind of have a similar theme going here as far as our business models. I'm the broker builder, you're the realtor interior designer. So I want to discuss this more with you. So how did you get into interior design as well?
Since I was a little girl, I played with a program called The Sims. And I wouldn't play with the actual Sims as far as the lifestyle portion. I would focus more on building the houses because you would be able to build the houses for the families from scratch. I mean, from buying the land to developing. And it's so funny because like I found out the cheat code to be able to have like unlimited money because I
That's what I was
didn't
about
want
to
to.
say too.
Yeah, like I didn't want to live the lifestyle and have to work to make more money to design the home. No, I just wanted to design the home of my dreams. And it's crazy. I mean, talk about, putting your visions out there and making them reality because I would always make a super modern home, white, a lot of glass, so a lot of natural light coming in, and just the type of home design that I would make back then are the types of homes that I design now, and it's beautiful. I did never choose to pursue it just because I always said, I mean, it's like, fashion designer or whatever. You either have to know somebody or you have to become very good for you to make money. It's not, it's a tough business. It's a tough line of work. But because I was a real estate agent, and I actually just became an interior designer not too long ago. I opened up my own company because I had already done my previous home with my ex-husband and then I bought my new house after being divorced, and I completely redid it from scratch. And I have that vision of being able to see the bones of the house and what it could potentially turn into, and making that vision reality. So I said, why not just do this for myself, but being able to do it for my clients. And the fact that I was already a real estate agent, they go hand in hand. And, also I thought about, okay, so, in our line of work, the seller has their own agent and the buyer has their own agent. If I'm the buyer's agent, which I tend to have more buyers than sellers, I can't really offer my service as a realtor to the seller because that's just not okay. He or she has its own realtor, right? So I'd be sort of stepping on the other realtor's shoes by giving my business card. However, if I offer my interior design service, then all of a sudden the realtor doesn't feel threatened because I'm offering my interior design and she or he don't do that. So they're okay with that because it's also helping. Okay, well, I'll be, in their head, I'll be the one buying their home. She can fix it and, my client will be happy and satisfied. Well, in the long run, if I'm creating those relationships and I am sort of outworking you per se, as far as how I'm treating the client, I may become that seller's new realtor. So they just go very hand in hand. And I'm not saying, like I said, by no means am I stepping over anybody's shoes. But I believe that as long as you're doing your job correctly and to the best of your abilities, there should be no reason why your client should want to replace you. I've had a client, actually, the one I'm closing on tomorrow, that, I asked him, he came to me and I asked him who he worked with previously, and he told me names. And I asked, why did you stop working with them? And he said, because they didn't have my best interest. They just forced me to close on this transaction. And I realized that it wasn't even the right one, but I still had to close on it. And that's how he ended up on my, for me representing him. And that's huge. That happens often. So same thing with interior design, that's my sort of step on the door. Yeah.
No, which is cool too, because I mean, it's like we talked about earlier, it's a long-term relationship that you're maintaining with somebody as well too. So by you doing the design end of things on top of the sales transaction, no, you're not stepping on anybody's toes. If they choose to go with you later on, that's their choice, because they like you, they had the relationship with you, you helped them with the design of that house. So guess what? You helping them with the design, you know more about the house more than anybody, because you designed it. So, and that's the thing too. I always tell people that with our stuff, when we build something, I know it more than anybody. It's our product, and I'm going to be able to sell it faster than anybody because it's our product. I know what's behind the walls. I know every single little detail about the home. So it's not stepping on anybody's toes or anything. What you're actually doing is very smart. You're kind of, and I've explained this in this way too. It's almost like a tree. The real estate's kind of your foundation. Then you're branching out to different things. Like that's what I'm doing with the home watch, the building. There's all these different branches of stuff that I can do. Rentals eventually, stuff like that. I've had people we built rental homes for. And they asked me to manage them. Well, I'm not in a position to manage a rental because just as well as I do, it's a ton of work, and I don't. There's only one of me, like I said. So, it's really smart what you're doing, because you're also implying your design and your touch to the sale. So it's almost like you're putting your stamp on it as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
So which is cool. So going into your design a little bit. So, obviously you started it. You said your design company, it's crafts visual stories that become signature surroundings, guided by clients' aspirations as well as their diverse experiences and tastes. The firm designs singular interiors, which allows clients to fully express who they are and what holds meaning to them. So how are you doing this?
Again, it's sort of, if I've represented the client in the sale, I've already know the home. I already know their taste because I've been looking with them for a while, and trying to find the perfect home for them. If they're just a new client, it's about having conversations with them and being able to connect with them and truly understand their taste. My taste is extremely modern, and minimalist. I incorporate a lot of Zen, into my designs, because for me, things being clear, not so cluttered, also declutter my mind. So I encourage that with people. However, not everybody has the same taste. Not everybody wants the ultra modern, and that's something you have to understand and learn to do. So I can do the contemporary, I can do I can do everything, but I prefer to do the more modern because that's where I could truly be inspired and just let my heart do the work, right? So I'm very forefront with my clients and tell them what my style is. And then at that point, they can tell me, well, because, there's a lot of people that do like the modern, but they don't like the furniture to be this way and that. And so it's just about communication and trying to understand what they want, and that room captures what they're looking for, their essence. A room, you should be able to walk into a room and identify what type of individuals live there without even meeting them. And so being able to identify that essence and portray it in that room, and also making sure that it's still functional. So that's sort of how I approach that.
No, and I like that answer. I mean, because you basically learn who the customer is during the transaction, and then you apply the design aspects that they want overall. But you also have your main design that you like to go with, your touch, which most designers do. You hire a designer based on their portfolios and what they are good at doing.
Right.
And modern right now is in style, so I'm sure you're having some success there. Because we're seeing a shift over here, a little bit more contemporary. Still get a little coastal flair to it, because we're on an island, we're near the coast, but more modern, sleeker, cleaner lines. Still some ceiling details, so on. The furniture is a little bit more modern too and cleaner. People are shying away from all the woodwork, the Tuscan arches everywhere, dark colors, and going more light and bright.
Well,
So.
wood is being able, it's making its comeback into modern. So, for
Mhm.
example, although I love modern white clean finishes, I love earth tones. So
Mhm.
throughout my house, you'll find a lot of wood, but with very clean finishes, not the arches from back then, and that sort of stuff. And then the other thing is being able to optimize the space. So, for example,
Yeah.
when I bought this house, this is a 1957, I think, or something like that home. And back then, it was one vanity. There was too many walls. They didn't have that vision of open space. And what I did is I knocked down all the closets were very small, because back then people didn't have nearly as much, half the closet that people have nowadays. So for example, my master bedroom, I completely gutted it. I gutted what was the closet and the bathroom to optimize space, because I needed a huge closet. So what I did with my design is I made the bathroom basically my closet, and then that wall of the closet is now my vanity, double vanity. So it's up against it, mounted in, so that I can optimize the rest of the space. And my bathroom is in the middle of my bedroom. So the only thing that has privacy is the toilet, which it has its own door and its own space. But other than that, my bathroom is in the middle of the bedroom, the bed and my bathtub. I have a beautiful bathtub freestanding in the middle of the room. And you could, from the bathtub, look at your bed and watch TV, and from your bed you could see your significant other taking a bath. But yeah, it's about functionality, but also optimizing the space, and I'm very good with that.
Which is all because everybody wants that now. They want functionality. They want to, you're seeing so much openness. You want everybody for gatherings, family, everything. Let the outside in too, and have big sliding glass doors that open up to everything and so on. Which do agree with the wood. Wood tones are important too, just not to the heavy extent they used to be in the old Tuscan days where you had heavy woods, but there is a lot of brown tones, light beiges, so on too, that we've been doing as well. But yeah, I like that idea with the 1950s house with the bathroom in the middle too. That's probably pretty cool. So you said basically what drives you is being able to share your knowledge so that others can eventually own their own home and use it to make residual income for themselves if they so desire. So how can a client do this? Because I mean, it's important to everybody. Obviously, a lot of people want to make the right investment, which we brushed on, but purchasing a home and then making that later on into an event, how are you doing this off of what you said there?
So in order for you to get a rental, I don't think a lot of people realize that in order for you to get into a rental, most of the times they're going to ask for first, last, and security. And if it's anything like here in Miami, where a rental, the cheapest will be like $1,800, say $2,000 for the sake of the conversation, that's $6,000 that you have to come up with to, rent, you know. And so I'd like to be very informational with my clients and provide them, different routes that yes, if you want to rent, you can rent, but rent with the mentality that eventually you want to buy, because the same $6,000 that you're putting in to get into a rental could be the same $6,000 that you could use to put a down payment on your home. And you know that all sorts of things and helps, such as, seller contribution, seller paying for the closing costs and things like that. So the biggest thing that I advise for people is to become familiar with these things, know your options, talk to, again, it all goes back to knowing a good real estate agent that can advise you honestly, correctly, and saving. Saving is so important. We're so up on spending the money we don't have to buy the things that make us look like we have the money. And you're never going to achieve your goals if that's how you're going to be managing your finances. So I always believe in just trying to save as much as you can, and getting rid of that. I put my savings account where I can't even see it on my phone. So I just go on there and put, and like Rich Dad Poor Dad said, pay yourself first and then pay everybody else, even the government. So make sure that you are paying yourself, you're putting away that money, and you're living within your means to get to where you want to get to. I think that's extremely important, something that people forget, especially during circumstances like this, this quarantine, this invisible enemy that we're fighting. We're being forced to stay home. A lot of realtors are not being able to work because, although, for example, here in Florida, real estate is an essential business, condominiums are not allowing anybody in. They're not allowing showings. Sellers are afraid to allow somebody into their homes, or doing virtual showings. So, I believe, going back to the question, which was how could I advise people to get there, eventually buying their home and investing in real estate, saving, and having the right people on your end as far as a real estate agent that can advise you and inform you correctly and honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as saving too, I mean, the people that weren't, obviously this time is really a lesson, unfortunately, for a lot of people, experiencing and going through this time. It's a time like no other. But you get those guys too. You get these real estate gurus that basically say, "Oh, why do you have a savings account? Don't save, put it into, you need to spend the money or invest in this, invest in that." And they're pushing these people to, put their money into real estate fast. What do you do? Don't wait, this and that. Get a loan for this. But now, when everything comes to a halt and the economy all of a sudden pumps the brakes, what are those people that have all their money and real estate assets that were basically all loaned out? What are they going to go through, where they can't pay? They didn't have that reserve. They didn't have the savings like you said they should, to where now they're like, okay, I got 6 mortgages to pay. What am I doing? Or 6 investment properties to pay for. What am I going to do? I don't have any work. So, what you just said is so smart, because, and not a lot of people, because if you go on Instagram, for example, or something like that, you see all these people that are just like, oh, invest your money now, put it in now, do this, don't save it, which I'm sure you've heard too. And it is important. I mean, during this time, like you said, it's a weird time. And, like people like us that are in the real estate business, me and you talked about it before, we had to pivot. You said this time has helped me with my business because I would have not have had it if this didn't happen. I had learned to shift. I had to do more, something that I probably would have not have done if I wasn't in quarantine, too. So let's talk about that. That goes to the next subject too. So yeah, let's talk about what you've done to pivot during this time of quarantine. Because I mean, you have a personal brand. You obviously have a following on Instagram and social media too. And you've said, you're it's more targeted towards mentoring others is what you've used your social for. So what have you done during this time as far as that?
So this time has actually been perfect for me. And the biggest thing is because I believe in looking at everything as, what is this teaching me, right? And what can I get out of this? Like Ramdas said, suffering is the vehicle to awakening. And so every time something happens, if we're able to twist it on, all right, what am I going to learn from this? How can I evolve? How can this teach me to grow? Then you no longer feel the same pain, or the same anxiety. So this quarantine, thankfully, although I do feel for those that, are not being able to put food on their table, those that are suffering from anxiety. There's so much going on right now, even like the hidden shadows, as far as there's a lot more domestic abuse. There's a lot more suicide. I believe that if people would be able to sort of shift their mindset, it wouldn't be the same. So I have been able to shift my mindset. And although, yes, I can get some anxiety because I'm not being able to be out there and actively working. I'm not making the same amount of money that I made last year, especially after, at the beginning of the year, I just took out a whole chunk of my savings to buy my house and completely renovate it. I wasn't expecting this, but I've taken it on a positive note, and I've just taken the time to work on myself so that I can become a better realtor and a better coach. Because like I said, real estate has always been sort of the vehicle to get me where I want to get to, which is coaching and public speaking and just being a leader and leading correctly and efficiently. And so I've been taking this time. May 1st is the end of my official isolation. I did 15 days of isolation where I haven't seen anybody, to have fun. I've seen clients and things like that because I have to, obviously, I have to continue working. But as far as partners, pleasure, fun activities or anything like that, I've kept it to nothing, none of that. I've been focused on reading my books, meditating, doing yoga, doing a lot of self-reflection and things like that are going to enrich my business, my practice, and allow me to become a better mentor. Like you said, a lot of people look up to me on social media. A lot of realtors see what I do and they want to learn from me. So in order for me to continue to teach them the best methods, I need to continue to learn, and process it all. So that's what I've been doing. I always say, in any business that has to do with customer service and relationships, you have to always ask, what do I need to do with myself in order to provide my best work yet? So that is a question I ask myself often. What does Maria need to do in order to provide her best work? And what does Maria need to do? She needs to work on herself. So that's what I've been doing. And to be honest with you, this quarantine, I needed this quarantine. I needed to be able to sort of get out of autopilot and just like producing to, okay, step back from producing and focus on taking all that in, absorbing and processing it and enriching myself more and more to then go back out there and produce some more. And as far as with realtors, a lot of realtors ask me, what are you doing right now as far as real estate though? Have you completely abandoned it? And I haven't. I've been reaching out to all my clients, making sure they're okay. This is the time where they have their guard down. They don't want to be pitched a sale right now. You don't want to be like, hey, don't forget I'm your realtor. No, make sure that they know that they're humans above anything else. They're not dollar signs. Reach out to them, ask them if they're okay. Last week, I sent out a mass email to all my friends, family, and clients, just saying that I'm here for whatever they need and letting them know that if they need any help as far as, managing your mortgage, so as a realtor, it's very important for you to stay on top of what's going on and informed. So that there's options for those that have mortgages to sort of, if they can contact their banks. Some banks are forgiving, not forgiving, but in essence, just pushing it back to the end of the loan. So if you can't afford to make a payment right now, you can talk to your bank, and depending on the type of loan you have, how much equity you have on your house, and all these different variables, you can not be forgiven of your monthly payment, but add it to the end of your loan. So things like this, applying for small business loans, things like this are very important for you to know. so that when your clients need help, you're there to provide them this information. If you're a renter, for example, know that right now you cannot get kicked out, you cannot be evicted. So I think it's important that if you genuinely cannot afford your rent right now, you write to your landlord and say, look, due to the circumstances, this is happening. Do you think that I can do this, this, and that? I had a client where the landlord said, because also I put myself in the opposite side, the landlord needs to collect the rent because that's their income, and they may have even a mortgage on that investment property. But what that landlord particularly did said, look, I still need to collect the payment because this is also how I survive. However, what we can do is this month, can you pay 80%? And I'll forgive that 20%. And I think that forgiving that 20% alone was so nice of them, and it was helpful because anything helps right now. So again, it goes back to just being, having all this information and being knowledgeable of these things of how you can help your client past closing a home or leasing them a property. So I've reached out to my clients and send them that email saying, if you're having difficulty making your rent payment or your mortgage payment, feel free to reach out to me. I have various options that could potentially help you. I think that is so important. This time should be taken as, I call it the golden chest. So think about it, you're sort of building your relationship. So every time you're throwing a gold coin into that chest of the relationships you're building. And then at the end of the quarantine, you get to open this chest and all that gold is coming out. So you're pausing life. There's a lot of realtors that don't have this mindset, but if they do, it will change completely. And I've been preparing myself and other realtors for this, building the relationships. Let's say that I have certain clients, or not clients, potential clients or prospects that I always wanted to work with, but they had their own realtors. If those realtors are not doing what they should be doing, this is the time where time gave me a pause to get that client. And then once this resumes, now I have a new client that I didn't have before. So that's what I mean by collecting coins on a chest, because right, cashing that chest, but once it's done, which it will be, we'll be able to open that and you'll have clients that you didn't have before. You'll have your build up relationships there. People will trust you that much more. You build that relationship and it's stronger now than ever before. So that's what I've been doing during my quarantine. Sorry, I sort of extended myself on that question.
No, you're fine. I mean, 23 years old, and everybody that's listening right now, this is the 23-year-old girl that just said what she said, which is very impressive, because if I would have been doing that at 23, I mean, I don't know where I'd be today, but it's crazy I mean, a typical 23-year-old would be, during this would be worried about probably just being out with friends or, having a good time or not, just not focusing on what I need to do to get ahead as far as my business and in life. And for you to take 15 days off from and isolate yourself to grow and work on yourself is so impressive for your age. I mean, it shows the maturity that you're already at. Not a lot of even adults have that maturity or mindset to do that too. And I mean, it's amazing. And it's only going to better you. You're only going to come out of this whole entire situation even bigger and better than before than you were. And business is only going to get better too. Just because having that mindset too is so impressive. And there's people that are wasting time during this, they're just saying, all right, I don't have to work. I got money in the bank. I'll just sit through this. And, when it's over, I'll get back to work. But
Right.
That's not what you're doing, and I know that sure as hell it's not what I've been doing too. I've been trying to create more content, do more things that I can do to get ahead as well. But what you did is very impressive. I didn't do the 15-day isolation thing and work on more mindset and stuff like that, and reading and bettering yourself, because self-development and personal development, you rushed on this earlier, is so key to your success and so important. And once I finally started working on that and investing in myself and doing these things too, I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, networking with you. This is, me and you are connecting. We would have never even known each other. Now we have a connection across the coast from each other, that if I have business over here that's looking in your area, it's same vice versa. It's huge. And what you just said is very, very impressive. And there's not a lot of people with that mindset. So good for you. Hats off to you on that one too.
Thank you.
So. I want to get into you personally a little bit, because it is impressive at your age what you're doing, being 23. One thing, I read about you is, and you've talked about this, is how focused on productivity you are. For a 23-year-old to be very productive and focused like you are, I mean, you've said lack of focus is one of the great enemies of productivity, and in your line of work, you can easily lose focus. So let's say for the agent, getting into the business that is younger, or in any business too, what are you doing to prevent this? Because it is impressive, and this is kind of going off of what you just spoke about too, but I'm curious to how you're kind of keeping the momentum going with the distractions being where you are, because we know in Miami there's a lot to do, and you can easily be persuaded to go one way rather than stick down the career path you're doing and so on, and keep productivity at a high and keep the momentum.
I think we're all humans and we all have temptation knocking on our door constantly. It's a matter of, are you putting yourself in the middle of temptation? So for example, and I actually was thinking about that today, I've eliminated listening to music and replaced it with listening to podcasts or listening to audiobooks. And I know that the minute I change it back to music, yes, I mean, I'm not always this like geek Maria. I like to listen to music too. But it depends what type of music, in Miami, if you find yourself listening to all that rap and hip hop all the time where they're saying, beep, beep, beep. I don't know if this is a censored podcast or not, but like money, weed, and a bunch of other things that music says, your brain is going to process that as like, wow, that lifestyle is so cool. I want it. And then you'll continue to go sort of that route, versus if you're focusing on, okay, if I am listening to music, it's sort of like relaxing music for my brain. Doesn't necessarily have to be, like I said, geeky meditation all the time or like podcasts all the time. But I've found a couple artists that I enjoy listening to them, and there's actually like quality work behind their lyrics. I'm not at all discrediting hip hop artists, because everybody's an artist, everybody is, but for me particularly and what I want to accomplish, I don't want to lose my focus. And I could easily, because it's happened to me before, where I'm listening to a song and all of a sudden I want to be this bad beep and have the long hair with extensions and the fake lashes, and like my mind changes. So I make sure that I'm not there with temptation by focusing on where I do want to be. That I think has been the biggest thing for me, and I battle with it every day, but it's about choice. And every day I get to wake up and I have my own choices. Which choice do you want to take? As far as eliminating distractions, time blocking has been huge for me. And, during this 15-day isolation, I realized that I used to, I used to talk a lot about the time blocking, but I would forget to hold myself accountable and do it sometimes. And when I didn't do it, I would find myself lost and not optimizing my time the way I should be doing. So I've really become more, I need to put everything in my calendar and make sure that it's time blocked. So for those that don't know what time blocking is, the night before or the morning of, you put on your calendar sort of by time detail of what you need to do during the day to make sure that you get everything that's a need accomplished and everything that's a want. You want to, they say, you want to accomplish 80% of what's need and 20% of what's a want. That's a healthy balance where you still get some joy. And the other thing is, yes, hold yourself accountable, but don't beat yourself up either. If for example, this board at the beginning of my 15 days was like, I need to finish 2 books by the end of my 15 days. I need to listen to a podcast every day. I need to meditate every day and go running every day. And I was once I started this 15 days, I realized, wow, like I'm really being tough on myself. I can't finish 2 books in 15 days, because then I won't be able to grasp the concept and what the book is really trying to tell me. So I eased it out. I said, all right, if I can accomplish it, I will. If I can't, I'm not going to beat myself up for it. Be work is also okay, so although yes, hold yourself accountable, but don't hurt yourself and judge yourself too hard if you couldn't do it 100% or exactly what it is that you set out to do. As long as you're doing, as long as you're only eating half of the dessert, that's a start, versus eating the whole dessert, right? And then eventually one day you'll say, you know what, I don't want dessert anymore. Actually, a really good, a very important good friend of mine said a quote to me yesterday, and I wrote it here because I put here like what I identify myself with a lot. And it says, patience is the belief in your heart that something will happen, but allowing it the time and space to occur. Which that resonated with me so much, because I'm the type that I need stuff done now. And all my life I've lived it like that. I need to go to school, I need to graduate, I need to get married, I need to have kids. And time on its own has showed me that it's not at my pace. And we touched up a little bit earlier about how we're both, divorced. And that was my biggest lesson, because my biggest dream was being married and having kids. And I rushed my relationship because I wanted to be married and have kids. Didn't matter with who. And life, what did life give me? I rushed a relationship. Life gave me a rushed relationship. And, so I got engaged, I married, but then that as fast as I started it. And I think that's huge. But going back to the question, as far as, how to keep focus, definitely just trying to avoid distraction and focusing your mind and surrounding yourself by the right individuals in the right environment. That's how I've been able to keep focus and keep my goal, always in front of me. Another thing that I do is, in my office right here, I have a vision board. So every day I look at it, and every time I have it done, I sort of just find myself looking at it and saying, is this helping me achieve my goals, and long-term and short-term goals? And every time I accomplish one, it goes down from the board and a new one comes back up. But being able to see that visually allows me to put myself on check every day, because I'm in my office every day. So every day I see that, and it's like, oh crap, wait, being on social media right now, it's not helping me towards that. Let me put my phone down, so that allows me to keep myself accountable.
No, and I mean, you got a lot in common, because I'm the same way. Like with we'll start with the music thing too. I mean, when I pulled back from listening to just music, let's say while I'm driving, and replacing that with podcasts or an audible book or something like that, I mean, that changed things dramatically too, because you're gaining knowledge, you're bettering yourself. Even when I'm working out, I mean, some people probably think it's weird, but I'll put on a podcast while I'm working out. And it keeps me going, because I like to hear, like, I'm a big fan. He's a mentor. I'm part of the Arte accelerator program or whatever, Andy Frisilla, and his Real AF podcast, or Ed Milet's podcast too. I mean, those things will motivate you more than anything, even when you're working out. So, I mean, I'm big with what you said too, as far as like replacing stuff with, replacing music, and not saying don't listen to music. I'm still going to listen to it here and there, but I highly agree with you on that aspect of things. But the time blocking thing too, I need to get better at it. I'll admit it. I definitely do, because I mean, it's so clutch, especially with what we do, blocking that time and taking these certain periods of the day to accomplish the task. And one thing I'm big on that I started doing, once again, referencing back to Andy Frisella's, is a daily top five things you definitely have to accomplish by the end of the day. Otherwise you lose the day. When I started doing that, it almost makes you like, you get so pissed when you don't finish all five, and you almost become hard on yourself. You have your small stuff in between that too, that you have to do, that you write down just to remember. I'm a big writer retention person, where I have to write rather than have it in my phone. Because if it's in that thing, it's going to pop up. I'm going to swipe past it. I'm going to forget it because somebody's calling me. You know what I mean? So that was another thing similar to what you're doing to make, and it really pressures you to get these things done too. Like, if I got to read 10 pages in a day, or just to make sure you accomplish those things too, is so huge. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the productivity, that stuff, and like I said, it's very impressive that what you're doing and keeping that mindset going. I love that quote, by the way, too. I don't know who told you that, or which one of your mentors too. If you want to shout them out, go ahead. But that's a good quote.
Other.
What's that?
It's a special person.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Not a mentor or anything like that. It's just a special person in my life.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a great quote in the whole thing too. Like, I was similar to you. I rushed into a marriage I should have not have did, and I thought it was right because I saw my brother and sister both have kids. They're married, and I'm like the one. Okay, I don't have any kids yet. I'm not married yet. What am I doing? And you learn as you go through these processes too. I guess it's God's way of kind of teaching you, because I was the same type of person as you. Get it done now. I got to go now. What am I waiting for? I'm going to do this, and this. And there wasn't enough of me to do it all, and once I finally realized, okay, time is going to, having patience and letting time kind of do its thing and take its course, that's when things are going to start being productive and produce for you, and you're going to get ahead. And when I did that, and I got divorced, and time opened up and things started happening, I started meeting new people and doing more things for myself to better myself. It was so huge. I mean, the last, it was just a whole different, it's hard to even explain, which I'm sure as well. So, it was a big deal.
I love it.
Yeah, exactly. So this question's huge, and I've gotten a different answer by everybody. I just love asking it because it's so personal, or about you. So, and everybody's had a different answer, and it's been awesome. So what lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business or lives that can help us all grow? That's a deep question.
Yeah. Let me see. I think the biggest one is becoming comfortable with rejection and knowing that every no is just getting you closer to a yes, especially for us realtors, especially for women. We're not comfortable with rejection. We're not, typically a woman doesn't get rejected, right? Like it hurts when we get rejected, right? I'm talking about on a personal level, from like a guy you like or whatever the case. So imagine applying that to work too. So it's a touchy subject, and women get very discouraged the first time that they get, the phone hung up on them. I know I did. And the person that taught me that was my ex. He said, I forgot exactly. Thank God I forgot. No, I'm kidding. I forgot exactly what he would use, but he would just tell me to become comfortable with rejection. that it's inevitable, right? And especially for us women. And to know that business is emotionless, although at this part of my career, I disagree. I can agree on business becoming emotionless when it's hard, right? But I believe in putting my heart into everything I do. I understand that if you put your heart, then you're sort of putting yourself out there vulnerable to become disappointed, to become angry, hurt, or whatever the case. But you're also working from a place of love when you put your heart into it. So I think me being mindful and understanding that yes, business is emotionless, but you can still put your heart into it. Just I think that rather than saying business is emotionless, I would say more don't take anything personal. And that comes from the four agreements from his name is, I forgot the author, but it's an amazing book. It's called The Four Agreements, and one of them is don't take anything personal, be true to your word. And what are the other two? I can't think of them right this second. But not taking, anything is so important, because then they're not attacking you. That's just who they are as an individual. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned and I've applied in my career as far as fear. I've also, like I said, and I think I've been this question. The reason why I'm having such a tough time with this question is because I've sort of already said all the things all throughout our conversation, that I don't want to repeat myself over. But for example, my biggest lesson has been taking all the bads and everything that happens and understanding that it's happening for a reason, and rather than seeing it as painful suffering, rather than seeing it as a negative, seeing what you can get out of it and how it can help you in the long run. Ram Dass, I mean, I keep referring back to him. He's a spiritual teacher, or was, because he passed away last year, but very, very knowledgeable guy. And the one thing he always says is, suffering is the vehicle for awakening. And he had a stroke, and he says that stroke allowed him to enter grace. He treated it with grace. So he saw it as, what did that stroke teach me, or what do I get from it? And I mean, to have that level of understanding, to see a stroke, something so, I mean, because it completely paralyzed one side of his body, to see such a hurtful, painful experience into a positive experience, it's huge, and it says a lot about you as a person. So if we can all do that, I think that the world wouldn't suffer as much as we do, and we'd be able to channel all of that into bigger things. Those would be my takeaways that I would like to share: the fear and channeling pain and suffering into what can I get out of this.
No, and once again, like I always say after everybody answers that question, and I don't want to put any input on it too, because that was personal. That was a really good answer too. Yeah, I love that answer too. So great job once again. That question, I always get something great out of it. So yeah, so I always like to ask this to everybody: where will you be in the future? Who will you be? Whether it's 5, 10, 20 years from now, where will we see Maria?
I think that a year from now, you'll see Maria coming out with her coaching program, which I'm actively working on right now, and it's scheduled to come out beginning of 2021. But 5 years from now, I see myself with my team completely built out to the point where they're another me, if not a better version of me, because I think that they all have qualities that complement myself and our business. And so I see my team fully, running and being able to be top producers all on their own. I see myself focused on the coaching, but being a mom. 5 years from now, I see myself being a mom and hopefully being a mom, right, if the timing is right, and being able to be present with my child and in the moment. I think that's one of the most important things I've always said. I don't want to bring another child into this world just to bring another child. I want to bring a child because I and the father can give, him or her the adequate time and just make sure that you're growing a conscious and well-raised human being, you know? So that's where I see myself 5 years from now.
I love it. And the last question that I always ask everybody, and this is what this show's about: what exactly do people need to look for when hiring a real estate agent or interior designer, and why should they choose Maria as their realtor or designer of choice?
I think I've said this over and over again during
Say it
our
again.
podcast, but someone that's trustworthy. So, I say, it's gotta be likability, value, and trust. Somebody that you can see the value in what they bring to the table, that you can trust, and somebody that is focused on you as a person and building that relationship versus what you could do for them as far as collecting the paycheck or the commission check.
Awesome. Maria, this has been awesome. I know we're crunched for time here a little bit. Thank you so much for taking the time. Last thing, where can people find and connect with you?
So you can go on to my website. It's maccabirealestate.com. There you will find all my links as far as LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or you can simply just go to my Instagram. It's at Maria Camila _Miami. I have a link genie there, which allows me to put various links. You'll be able to see my podcast, my interviews, articles about me, everything else is there. So that's where you can connect.
Awesome. Maria, thank you again for coming on this episode of The Real Build. I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on today. It's been awesome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the talk and being able to this is especially just so amazing right now during these times, being able to, even though we're isolated, we're closer than ever before, and being able to build those relationships and that camaraderie, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
No, I 100% agree. This is awesome. It's been great information. This was a great episode. So guys, thank you for listening as always, and I will see you on the next one.